Marketing and Resource Manager here at the KCCTE. I have worked for the Kansas Center for Career and Technical Education for the last 4 years, but on a part-time basis. I was in charge of just all the marketing. So anything on Facebook, any of the flyers, postcards, I pretty much was spearheading most of that. I got my master's here at Pitt State, and so I was able to be a graduate assistant, and then they kept me on part-time to work on marketing after that. Last year, I started my own marketing business called 128 Marketing, where I specialize in Facebook content and ads management. So you know when you're scrolling through Facebook and you see those sponsored ads, I help businesses place those and target people specifically. So you're welcome, all of you. Those are people doing that, and they find you. So I love marketing. I love everything about it. And so being able to be here full time is really exciting for me. I love working with CTE teachers. And so Jenny actually came to us at the end of last semester and said, I need some help with marketing our program. And we just thought, let's turn it into a whole kind of a mini series and help other people. So I'm so glad we had about 50 people sign up. And so I'm glad that we have this many who have been able to turn out for this. I think some people have just hopped on. So if you want to have your video on, go ahead and turn that video on. Otherwise, you are free. I love that we have a little helper today. That's super fun, Cassie. I left mine at home. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to get going. Ready? So today we are talking about what on earth do I say? How do we even tell people what we're all about? We're going to answer that today. Next week, we are splitting up. We're going to take secondary at 9:30 a.m. and post-secondary at 11 a.m. So that will be the 15th and the 22nd. On the 15th, we're going to talk about the basics of marketing and social media. Then the next week, we'll break it down even further and just talk about social media, specifically Facebook and Instagram, plus email. And then the last week, we're going to wrap it up in a pretty little bow and talk about some really easy programs that can take your marketing to the next level. Show you some picture enhancing programs, and they're all web-based. So you can either download them as an app on your phone, or you can download them on your computer, pull them up on your computer. I promise they are entry-level, easy stuff. So that's kind of where we're at with this. It's all going to progress. So everything that we talk about today, we'll use next week, and then we'll use it next week. And then by the end of the month, you guys should be ready to rock and roll. So as we get started, I want you to think about this quote I found yesterday. The only way to win at content marketing is for the reader to say, this was written specifically for me. And I think that's with any type of marketing that we do. Sometimes you get things and you're like, what does that even mean? And then other times you're like, whoa, that person gets me. And so that's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to get inside the minds of the people that we're trying to reach with our message. So the first thing, before we even talk about what to talk about, we have to figure out who we're talking to. So who is your audience? And if you want, I'd like for you to unmute, and I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion here. When we're crafting a message to certain people, who are we trying to reach about our programs? I'll start off, okay? So the first one is a no-brainer, students. We have to reach students, right? Who else do we try to reach about our programs?
Stakeholders.
Stakeholders like?
Administration.
Administration, okay.
Parents.
Parents, who else?
Community members.
Okay, why are they important?
Because they support our programs, and they oftentimes don't know a lot of what we're doing in our programs.
Hi. Yeah, right, community members. Grandparents.
Business members.
Business members for sponsorships.
Advisory councils.
Advisory councils.
Other teachers and counselors.
Yes. And why are other teachers a good support system to have for your program?
In theory, they could recommend or target a student who might be good in the area that we're looking at. Somebody who maybe is good at design, but also might be good at computers, could be geared toward a drafting or a CAD program. Would just depend on the situation.
Yeah, exactly. They're just really good advocates. And if they've already reached that student, or that student is especially close to them, they can have an inside look into, you know, a lot of times when you're a teacher, a student does connect with you and maybe they don't have a parent at home. And so you can be that helpful person to them.
A lot of times enrollment also takes place in other classes, like it takes place in English classes in our building. And so the English teachers knowing and understanding CTE helps them make, you know, connections with students and help them make good decisions.
Right. Who else? I mean, that pretty much gives us a basic understanding of who we're trying to reach, right? So then once we decide who we're trying to target specifically, then we can move on to, so why is the content that we produce important? And so the reason content is important is because each of those people, they need to know the same thing, but you have to decide how to say it to them, right? So we're going to say things differently to a student than we would say things to a parent or a grandparent or a dean or an administrator. An example, and we'll get to this when we do the mind map, but an example would be, as a teacher, we want our students to see the fun in the programs that we offer, right? So we want them to know that because I'm marketing, I'll just say, if I'm a business teacher, and I'll expand on this in a second, but if I'm a business teacher and we do competitions, I want the students to know we get to take a day out of school and go to a competition, and you get to compete against others. That is really a fun activity. I know that was one of the, I mean, I didn't enjoy missing school because then I had homework to do, but I enjoyed competing against other people. I did public speaking and I did job interview for FBLA, and I enjoyed those things. And so then I would tell all my friends about it. So the way that we speak to students is going to be different than the way we speak to their parent. The parent, hey, your kid gets to compete at a state level and it could go to the national level. And what a good thing that looks like going into college, right? And I know you guys know this. So we're really just literally breaking it down. I'm walking you through a process that I would do with my clients. And one of those activities is the mind map, because we know what to talk about, right? Like, we know our programs inside and out. But the problem is telling other people about it. And that's marketing. Like, that's just what marketing is. And so when we're preparing content, you just have to take a step back and remove yourself and think, okay, what do people need to know? Like, I know it, but Joe doesn't know it, and Susie doesn't know it. So let's tell them about it. So what we're going to do is a mind map. And I've started a little one here. And is everyone pretty familiar with a mind map? Can you just kind of do this? Raise your hand if you've done a mind map. Okay, so I just realized I'm going to have to turn because I'm not left-handed. 1 second. Okay. So for the mind map, if you want to unmute, go ahead, because I want to kind of walk you through this. Because I'm marketing, I just went ahead and did a blanket. Let's pretend I am a business teacher. So I already mentioned FBLA. So I'm going to draw a leg for FBLA. And then off of that leg, I'm going to do competitions. And then you could even go one step further and talk about all the 1,000 competitions that you could do with FBLA. If I were ag, same thing. FFA, all the competitions. And down here, let's do the obvious. We're all in a CTE program, right? So then if we highlight February, what's February for CTE?
CTE month.
Yes, CTE month. So the perfect time to talk all things stats. What does the job outlook look like upon graduation, whether that's college or high school? These are amazing opportunities for us. What else can we talk about? The individual classes. So intro to business, entrepreneurship, marketing, finance. So we can just keep going and just make all of these, all of these different options. So maybe they want to be a business owner. Sorry, can you guys even read that? my chicken scratch.
We
So,
we can see enough to get the idea. I
okay.
was going to say a lot of them have like a senior capstone class
Oh,
where sometimes they do services for the community or whatever. That's a huge market.
yeah, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then drawing in those community members, how can you help? And you guys, the cool thing about this is the mind map really just helps us to purge. It's just a brain dump. I really like that phrase as a brain dump. It's just taking all of your things in your head and just throwing it on a piece of paper. You're supposed to do it as quickly as you can, as fast as you can, not thinking just anything that comes to your mind. And then the cool thing about that is that then you put it away. And then you bring it back out and you look at it and see if it's a good idea. And then you put it away. So I forgot to pull up a timer, but I wanted to give you all about 5 minutes to do this. And so if you have a pen and paper and you want to do about 5 minutes of this, then I will set my timer and then I'll kind of just let you know when that 5 minutes is up. Does anyone have any questions before we go to that? No? Okay. So I'm going to get my timer up and give you 5 minutes and just brain dump. I want you to put your program in the middle and then just anything and everything that could go to that, and then we'll bring it all back in. Okay, ready? Go.
This is a good time too, Morgan. If anybody has a question, they could type it in the chat or they can just unmute and ask it too while people are brainstorming. It might help someone else.
Jack, did you have a question?
No, don't have anything in particular.
I just couldn't tell if you needed something or if you were just looking. Okay, thanks. We've got about a minute and a half. About 30 seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and stop. Let you wrap up your thoughts, and then we'll move on. Everyone ready? Okay, so if you want, go ahead, let's unmute for a second. And I know that we had some duplicate industries here when we registered. I don't know that everyone is a duplicate now, but I think I've marked several business, and then several just CTE. I see we've got an automotive. So I was thinking this would be a good time just to kind of share some ideas that maybe you wrote down in your industry. So just say like what industry you teach, what pathway, and then just an idea. Like, yeah, we know we need to tell them about the classes, but maybe something that you thought of bigger picture. Anyone want to share something that might help someone else?
I'll speak. I'm from Ottawa, and I'm the CTE coordinator. I've been out of the classroom for a year, so I thought of it from the perspective of all the CTE programs.
Awesome.
And so two things that really stuck out for me are the credentials and certifications that our kids can get and how important that is. Our work-based learning opportunities, dual credit and concurrent credit, Excel and CTE, and I'll stop there because I know that other people have things. So.
No, those are all really good things. That's helpful. And I don't know, did you all think of those things? Yeah. What else? Anyone else want to share?
Go ahead.
I teach in the business marketing area, and so I wrote down talking about the different scholarships that can open up to students through their involvement in CTSOs, different things like that.
Good. And who would want to know about that?
I would say counselors, students, and parents, or guardians.
Yeah. So then the cool thing about that is that when we take those, dual credits or scholarships, the kids who are interested in college, then you craft that message specifically for them. You can then do the same exact post the next week, but craft it towards the parents. Hey parents, have you seen this scholarship opportunity? If your kid gets involved in this, have them fill out this. I mean, there's just so many different ways. So that's one idea that you can craft 3 different ways, because then you send it to the counselor as well. Hey counselors, we've got this scholarship opportunity if you know of a kid that fits the criteria, right? So that's one content idea with 3 different avenues to get your message out, right? And I know that this may seem like, well, duh, Morgan, but really, if you're in a funk and you can't figure out what to talk about, it really is just this simple as, well, what do I know about my program? And writing it down, and then, okay, cool. Well, now I know that I need to talk about this to X, Y, and Z, and I can talk about this to 10 more people. Anything else that we want to share on that? Okay, so I was even thinking we could go a step further. Some things that I wrote down, and we may have already touched on them on the mind map, but just the different contests that kids can attend if your program offers those, student competitions, which would also be contests. You could also turn things into a contest. So if you send out a newsletter, or if you're posting, and we'll get into this in later weeks, but just to get your mind going a little bit deeper, when did we first become an organization, or when did the school become a university or a community college? Just different contests to get different people involved, the like, share, comment type stuff that you see all over Facebook. Those things get more people involved. A program overview, student highlights are a great way to talk about your program, especially if they're a student that you know will give a good review. Like, you don't want to ask a failing student, hey, can you give me a testimony for my newsletter? That wouldn't go well. And then a school, so your program highlight, an instructor highlight, student, instructor, school, program. Why should they join your program? Like, as simple as a statement as that. Why? What do you have to offer them? Then we talked a little bit about the CTE month. The stats upon graduation are huge. I love February to throw out those. Those are just easy stats that parents, I think, would really like, counselors, even the students themselves, knowing, hey, you could come out of college debt-free if you go into this trade because there's XYZ available for you. That's a huge thing. Different fundraising opportunities that are happening, that can go all over the place. So does that help a little bit to kind of get your mind going? Okay, so where do you go from here? The basic is you just have to start somewhere. And you just have to remember, who am I writing for? What do I have to offer them? And what is my message? How do I create a message specifically for the people that need to know about my program? And then you just do it. The one thing, let me go back, that I want to make sure that we're tying it all together with is that the mind map then will lead us into next week's discussion, where we're talking about the basics of marketing and social media. So once we know who we're talking to and what the message is, we have to find those people. Where are they at? So we talk about all the different types of things, newsletters and websites, email, Facebook, Instagram, or basically we'll just lump it as social media. But really, where do we find those people? Because this is all great and good to talk about, but how do you actually find those people? And so we'll kind of dive into that next week. Are there any questions? I don't want these to be super long, you guys. I want them to be short and actionable. So what I want you to do for next week, if you feel like you really need to work on your content, I want you to work on that through next week when we meet again on Wednesday. Just put the mind map away for today, get it back out tomorrow or the next day, and look at it again. See if you can rearrange some things. Can you expand? Do you just need to take something off? And just work on that, because the more you look at it and put it away, remember, it's a brain dump. You're just getting things off your mind and then pushing it aside and then bringing it back out. So you can always connect with us on Facebook or on LinkedIn. We are now on LinkedIn. And always feel free to email me, mprather@pittstate.edu. I love brainstorming. I love talking marketing. So if you have questions, feel free to shoot them my way if you don't feel comfortable asking them here. But does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? Yes.
I have one question. I just want to be clear on what our assignment is for next week. So basically this week, we are supposed to just develop our mind map. So thinking of any kind of message that we think is valuable about our program that we might want to get out.
Yes.
Do we also need to be thinking about, do we need to write somewhere on our mind map who we would get that message to, or is that just
No, that would be helpful. It's not going to hurt anything to go ahead and do that. I think coming up with, yeah, because not every message is going to be for a parent, and not every message, and you may not need to write that out. It may be just pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. Okay. So basically just come next week with a pretty developed mind map. Just
Yep.
our ideas. It doesn't have to look like yours, right? Just
Nope.
it's just a brain.
However you want to do it. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? I hope that this was helpful. I know that it was simple and quick, but again, I don't want these to last super long. My hope is 30, 45 minutes at most, so that we're not eating up a bunch of you guys' time. March